Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So, now it's my turn to have a T28. So, we're setting these up for FPV, and I've done a real simple setup here. Originally I wanted to do windows just because they're a little more realistic from the inside. The factory canopy isn't clear enough to do a camera inside. It just distorts everything. So for now, I've decided to just cut the windows out, and obviously this huge section back here being gone kind of sucks. But basically, you could leave it on, but it would be a ton of drag. So to have this open and then this closed, so I've just cut it all off. Done a few things to make it a little bit nicer inside. So this is a printout from, I found it online. It's a screenshot from a flight simulator. I can show you what I did here. I pretty much just Googled T28 instrument panel flight sim. That's what you get. I put a couple coats of clear coat on it just to kind of, I don't know, it makes the colors stand out a little bit better compared to just this. So anyways, I did that. I got some cardstock right here. See that? Just makes like a little shade shelf. The real one has something similar to this. Just to add a little bit of detail to it. Then obviously I painted this black, this a lighter gray to match the instrument panel. And I've found that the camera pushed all the way back up against the wall is about the right distance back, and height wise it's about 1.2 inches to the bottom of this mount. So I kind of played around, turned the camera on, used the goggles to kind of figure out the best height and distance from the frames. Now a lot of guys will just cut the frames all the way off and just leave it totally open, which is fine, but it just doesn't look as realistic. I mean, obviously there's no windows, which is super lame, and it's got a little more realistic look than this. Is pretty much the same thing as what the front had on it. It has a few extra gauges and stuff, but it looks okay. But this just has a little more detail, a little more something. It is a little blurry because the camera is so close to it, so really it's just kind of there, and you hardly ever look down that much. I kind of wanted to do a full cockpit tub like I have in my T28, but honestly this is more of just kind of a quick and dirty, just for fun, just to get it flying and see how it goes. So what you'll find is typically, especially when you're flying formation, you almost never look down to where you even see any of this. You're almost always looking up, out through the top, or out through the corners, or off to the side, just because you're following another airplane. So anyways, this is a great vantage point from the camera right here, because with it turned on I can see down the nose, so I can see the top of the cowling a little bit, which is nice to help line up with the runway. It's nice to be able to help gauge angle of attack and things like that. So there's a few, if you've never done FPV before, there's a few little things you need to look out for as far as camera placement goes. One is, canopy frames. Are they going to be super in the way? I've kind of made these a little smaller than what they were before. So like where it's molded before, I actually made them a little bit smaller, just because the less in front of you that you have to look through, the better. So you can kind of get an idea of kind of what it's going to see. It's not too bad. So, and then obviously I painted the inside gray. One of my pet peeves when guys do FPV setups is they just cut the windows out or whatever, but then they don't paint anything, and it's like sort of see-through painted. It just looks tacky and not realistic at all. Granted, this isn't super realistic, but it's just enough to where you don't feel like you're sitting in a toy. So the whole idea is for it to be somewhat realistic. But it's got a nice view out the wing. You see all the flight controls and everything, which is nice. I might put some mirrors in here like I had on my T38 just for fun. This is where the battery goes to power the sending unit for this. So let me pop the hatch off here. So basically, if you've never set one of these up before, it's just 2 wires. So you have to run an 8-channel receiver. This is actually the PNP. This isn't the bind and fly, because I knew I'd be putting an FPV setup in it. So there wasn't much reason to get the 6-channel setup. So I got an 8-channel. I accidentally ordered a non-AS3X receiver, which is a bummer, but we're gonna fly it this way anyways for now. And then hopefully I'll get an AS3X receiver for it soon. And I've got it set up to run my Spectrum 7000s. I love those batteries. I just use them in everything now. Let's see. I did order some connectors that do those connectors that it's like 4-in-1 kind of a thing. So I got 2 of those to make this easier to hook up, because if you have to take the wing off and on for transport, it's a total pain in the butt to, well, it's not that big of a deal, but it's a pain to have to connect everything. So I got a couple of like 4-in-1 easy connectors to set up in this. So that'll be nice. But yes, hoping to fly tomorrow, July 4th. And we'll probably have my son fly his line of sight, and then I'll see what I can do for formation flying. This should be a extremely good formation flyer / FPV trainer. If you've never done FPV before, a lot of guys start with smaller models, which is fine. But if you've flown smaller models and bigger models, you'll know that the bigger stuff just flies better in every aspect, and this is no exception. And if you've ever flown one of these airplanes, you know just how docile and how insanely good these things fly. So one of the things, or there's a few really good points that you need when it comes to having a solid FPV platform, in my opinion. For starting out anyways, you definitely want to stick with a tricycle landing gear. You want something that's got really sturdy landing gear. You're going to mess up your landings until you get the hang of it. So you don't want to be breaking gear out of your airplane every time you land it and getting frustrated. So pick an airplane that's got really solid landing gear that can take a little bit of a beating just in case you bounce it or whatever. A plane that has a nice slow landing speed and a forgiving stall. So those are all things that are, in my opinion, the most important aspects when choosing a FPV model, and this pretty much clicks all those boxes. It checks them all off. My T28, which was one of my early FPV models, is actually amazing. And in my opinion, jets are a little bit easier than prop airplanes because there's no torque and all that. But these airplanes, if you're flying it right, you're not going to notice that anyways. And with the AS3X setup in it, it's not a huge deal. Like I said, this doesn't have AS3X at the moment. We'll see how that works out. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's mostly just for wind gusts and stuff anyways. So anyways, it's just a quick video on my setup for doing FPV. And again, this is just a plywood mount that I made just out of some scrap wood. It's 1/4-inch plywood. You got four screws. And so this is, if you guys aren't aware, this is a DJI camera setup that you would use in like a drone. Basically, it's almost the same thing. You can get those at a lot of different places. They're about $200. This gimbal unit here, really nice setup. It's made by some guys that call their company Motion Sick, and this is called the bag for badass gimbal. And it's a 2-way gimbal, and I have it set up on a head tracker. You don't have to use a head tracker, but I highly suggest it. It just makes the whole experience just way more realistic, and it's just way better. I couldn't imagine flying without a head tracker, especially doing formation flying. So anyways, it's real simple. You just bolt the camera onto their little gimbal setup here, and then they also sell that the head tracker as well, just bolts onto the side of your goggles. So real simple to set up if you've never done one before. And I can't wait to fly this thing tomorrow. It's going to be an absolute blast chasing my kid around and just shooting touch and goes and doing whatever. So anyways, if you guys have any questions about FPV setups, feel free to comment. We're going to be going to the field tomorrow, so hopefully I'll have some video from inside the airplane tomorrow. chasing around the other T28. So anyways, hope you guys liked it, and we'll see you in the next one.